Hi 친구타지min, it's Lint. Today I'm finally setting up my ecosystem tank, which I've been wanting to do for a really long time. Now that I have my own apartment, it's time to make my dreams come true. I think everybody has probably had a fish tank at some point. I remember there being betta fish, some guppies, and maybe some tetra, but none of them survived very long because I was obviously not a very good caretaker. The tanks were too small, full of plastic plants, and I knew nothing about water parameters. So this time I want to do it properly and make this fishbowl the perfect home for my fish. I originally wanted to have fancy goldfish, but I realized they need a lot of space, which I don't have in this apartment. There's nowhere to fit a 20-gallon tank, especially since I know I'll be moving in a year. I also wanted something low maintenance and not too equipment heavy, since I didn't want to do water changes every week or spend too much money. That's why I thought a ecosystem tank would be the perfect fit. This kind of project is definitely more front-loaded and got easier to upkeep as time went on. This is my first time doing this, so I know there's a lot of things I could have done better. Just bear with me. And if you have any suggestions for the future, I will definitely take all the advice I can get. For those who don't know, an ecosystem tank is basically a self-sustaining aquarium that doesn't need a filter or regular water changes. The plants act as natural water filters, and the shrimp and snails take care of the waste and algae. The materials I started with include this fishbowl, fluorostratum, some rocks, sand, water test strips, tap water dechlorinator, and a hand pump. I tried to do a lot of research, starting from the basics, including the nitrogen cycle, different plants, and different fish and what they need. I watched a lot of videos of people setting up their ecosystem tanks to get an idea of what to do, especially MD fish tanks. He made it look so much easier than it actually was. I didn't buy any critters yet because I wanted to make sure my water parameters were right first. I just started out with a couple of easy to grow plants to allow the tank to cycle and see what grows best. I know there was a risk for algae, but the plants I bought had a couple of pest snails attached to them, so I just counted on them to take care of the waste and algae for now. The first 2 weeks were really hard and discouraging. I had to change the water pretty much every day because the water would look like this. After about 2 weeks, a couple of the plants seemed to have rooted and started to outcompete the algae, but a couple of them also didn't survive. I definitely didn't have enough plants for the size of the tank, so today I'm going to buy some different ones and see if they would stick. One thing I knew I really wanted was a marimo. They were banned from the US for a while because they carried the risk of bringing invasive zebra clams to our waters, but this was in 2024, so they were allowed to be traded again. But none of the aquarium shops I visited before carried them, until I randomly stumbled upon a YouTube video of someone in the Chicago area going to this aquarium shop. There was a marimo tank in the corner of their video, and I ran over it right away. It took me over an hour to get here, so that shows my dedication to this moss ball. Besides goldfish, I also really like these rummy-nosed tetras, but my tank is definitely not big enough to accommodate them. I've been doing my water changes out of a salad bowl, so it's no wonder it took me so long. I finally went to Home Depot to get me a proper bucket to make my life so much easier. Everyone, meet my Marimo, Zori. Do you know what I named him after? If you said Zoro from One Piece, you're correct. While Zori was out of the water in this bag, a bunch of these worms started coming out of him and were wiggling their heads around in the air. I had no clue what these were, but I had nothing in the tank that could eat them, and I didn't know how they would affect the balance of everything, so I just picked them out with these tweezers one by one. They kind of look like the bloodworms used as fish food, so my guess is they were taking shelter from their predators in Zori. I really like how lush carpeting plants make an aquarium look, so I got some of this dwarf hairgrass. I know it won't grow well in my aquarium because I don't have CO2, but I was just hoping that it would spread even a little bit, and honestly, I was just throwing different plants at it to see what would work with my setup. It was a long day of hard work, but staring at the product is so rewarding. I would sit and stare at my plant tank for hours, just hoping the plants would grow even a millimeter taller. There were a lot of things to do today. First on the agenda is getting a new lamp. The one I'm using right now is usually a standing lamp I use for my dinner table. I went to IKEA to buy a desk lamp that I've been really wanting. Honestly, I don't think it was a good idea to change it because all of a sudden, a couple of my plants weren't doing as well as they were before. I still needed more plant mass in this tank, so I bought this in hopes that it would kind of be the centerpiece plant, and some Christmas moss. And I also got my next resident. It's a nerite snail that I named Tiger because of the stripes. I thought about getting an apple snail because I like how they look, but I didn't want to risk them climbing out of the top. Even after Tiger's arrival, I left the pest snails to do their own thing because my next residents are gonna be shrimp. I thought with Tiger and the shrimp, they would keep the populations of the other snails balanced because they share the same main food source. Spoiler alert, the cryptocorin and the Anubias I got in the beginning didn't end up doing well and dying, even though they're pretty easy to take care of plants. I think it was because I had them surrounded by these 3 rocks, so there wasn't very good water flow. After about a month, these hornwort were growing pretty tall, so I cut them in half and replanted them. I ended up taking one of the rocks out so the plants had more space and better water flow and more light. At this point, I felt like everything in the tank was kind of stabilized, so I finally got my next residence, some cherry shrimp. I think they're so cute and look so good against the green plants. It would be hard to name them individually, so I was trying to think of a group name for them, like a band name. I started off with 6 of them and I named them the sserashrimp. This is me trying to drip acclimate them to the water because I don't have the equipment for it. I ended up getting another Anubias, and I think this is an Amazon sword, or maybe it's a Java fur. And I'm happy to say that both of them have survived. After I came back from traveling in China for a month, I added my final resident, a betta fish. This tank is about 8 gallons of water, not including the space the substrate and empty space take. I thought about getting a school of fish like tetras or something, but the space still seemed a little too small. After adding the betta to the tank, the first thing he did was eat 3 of my shrimp over the next week. I was so stressed watching their numbers dwindle. It would have been maybe a little bit better if he ate the whole shrimp, but I watched with my own 2 eyes as he decapitated one of my shrimp and left the other half of its body for the rest of the sserashrimp to find. I was seriously considering setting up a separate shrimp tank for the survivors. After another day, the betta started leaving them alone. And at this point, I had 3 out of the 6 shrimp I started with. And because of his murderous tendencies, I named the betta Doffy after Doflamingo from One Piece. Thankfully, everyone seemed happy and healthy after this initial adjustment period. I got 2nd and 3rd generations of the sserashrimp, and Doffy was building his bubble nests. This is now 5 months in, and all I had to do now was trim the plants, feed the residents, and top off the water maybe once a month. How do you guys think it turned out? There's definitely a lot that I learned, and many things I can do better for next time, but for my first time, I think it was a job well done. There are a lot of different fish I want to try raising, and different ecosystems I want to explore as well. One day when I have my own place again, I am definitely going to do that. But for now, I'll take care of Doffy and his roommates well. Until next time, bye bye!